What is your reaction when you have to give a speech? Do you experience fear? Do you panic? Do you feel anxiety or distress? Would you rather not give the speech at all? If you answered yes to either of these questions, that's okay. My name is Shalonda. I created the I Am Speaking strategy to give entrepreneurs and professionals in leadership positions specific steps they can take to transform their concerns with public speaking into the confidence that will empower them to speak successfully before an audience. I am excited about our conversation. Thank you for joining me for this discussion. And I'm excited because I know that developing the confidence to give a speech will benefit you professionally. As a matter of fact, not too long ago, I watched a video where the billionaire Warren Buffett was being interviewed. And during his conversation with an audience of aspiring CEOs, he confessed that earlier in his career, he had a fear of public speaking. But he later admitted he believes that he celebrates the success financially and professionally that he does today, in large part because he faced his fear of public speaking and developed the ability to stand before an audience with confidence. So the bottom line is public speaking can help you. And I am excited to have this conversation with you to help you. What are we talking about? You will learn 3 things during our discussion. First, you will learn what causes your reaction to public speaking. Then you will learn 4 specific reasons public speaking appears to be an unpleasant and uncomfortable experience. And once you learn the cause for your reaction and why public speaking appears to be unpleasant, you will then learn what to do to transform your concerns into confidence. Overall, we're going to build a skill of self-awareness. We're going to enhance our self-awareness. And by doing that, we will become aware of the specific steps we can take to transform our concerns into confidence. So let's get started. We'll start by talking about what causes your concern with public speaking. I have here with me this little item. Can you see it? This little item here. I'll do like I've seen so many people do on a YouTube channel to make sure you can see it. Can you see this little item? It is an almond. And what might an almond have to do with your reaction to public speaking? Thank you for asking. I will tell you. As human beings, we're each born with a little almond-sized and shaped compartment in our brain. It is technically called the amygdala. I call it our personal protection system. And I call it our personal protection system because this little almond-sized and shaped compartment in our brain sends a signal for us to either run or fight when we're in a situation that appears to threaten our well-being in some way. So have you heard of the flight or fight response? This little almond-sized shaped compartment in our brain is technically called the amygdala. I call it our personal protection system, is the source. This little thing in our brain is the reason we have the reaction we do. It's the source for the fight or flight response. What does that have to do with public speaking? Thank you for asking. I'll tell you. If you are someone who would rather avoid giving a speech, I've even encountered some folks who are so concerned about public speaking, they don't want to be a part of the audience. And here's the secret about public speaking. There has to be an audience or it's not public speaking. Some people are so concerned with public speaking, they don't want to be a part of the audience. And if you don't want anything to do with public speaking, be the speaker, and you avoid opportunities to give a speech, or you don't want to be a part of the audience, that's your flight response. Your personal protection system has triggered the flight response because this appears to be a threatening situation in some way. If you are someone who, when you stand before an audience and you open your mouth to speak and can't even force hello to come out of your mouth. That's the freeze response. That also comes from our personal protection system, the amygdala. The amygdala says, I don't know what to do right now. This situation is threatening. I don't know what to do. And then there are times when our amygdala, our personal protection system, tells us to run, to fight. Pardon me. You're in fight mode right now. Congratulations. You are in fight mode. You are learning to overcome your concerns so that you can become a confident speaker. So that's what causes your reaction to public speaking. Your personal protection system that is the size and shape of an almond in your brain, it's technically called the amygdala. Now, why does public speaking appear to be a threat to us? Well, the bottom line is there are 4 reasons public speaking appears to be a threat to our social well-being, which in turn can create an uncomfortable experience. The first reason is called feeling isolated. If feeling isolated sounds familiar to you, comment below and tell me, yep, feeling isolated is definitely the reason why public speaking appears to be an uncomfortable situation for me. What is feeling isolated? As human beings, we are social. As a matter of fact, one of our basic needs is the need to belong. Feel like we belong to a social group. When we are separated from that group, it creates a kind of pressure for some people. And that pressure, being the center of attention, is uncomfortable. And here's why it can potentially seem to threaten our social well-being. Since we are socialized to be a part of a larger group, when we are separated from the larger group, it's usually under circumstances where our behavior is not compliant with the social norm for the larger group. Here's an example. When I was in elementary school, I was a little social person. I wanted to talk to my friends at any given time that I felt like talking about the lesson we were learning, what happened at recess, probably what happened the night before on my favorite cartoon, the Thundercats. And my teachers were like, no, ma'am, you're not talking during class time right now. And I'm going to make sure you understand that this is not the appropriate time to talk because you're going to go stand in the corner. And as I have to get up and make my way to the corner, all the eyes are on me, following me to the corner. Now, my teachers did nothing wrong. They had to preserve the integrity of their learning environment. But the point that I am making is typically when someone is isolated from the larger group, it's because we've learned that it's a result for exhibiting anti-social behavior that's not compliant. While that is not necessarily the case when it comes to public speaking, it creates that same type of feeling for some people, that kind of pressure. All these eyes are looking at me. That feeling isolated, being the center of attention. We need to feel like we belong. So if feeling isolated is a reason that public speaking may feel uncomfortable for you, comment below. I'd like to hear from you. A second reason public speaking appears to be uncomfortable is because of something called all or nothing thinking. If you are a perfectionist like me and you believe one mistake will ruin your entire effort, presentation, that is classic all or nothing thinking. Why does all or nothing thinking appear to threaten our social well-being? Well, there's a remarkable neuroscientist by the name of Dr. Joe Dispenza. I follow him all the time. And he pointed out something that made me understand why I am the perfectionist I am. As human beings, we are hardwired to protect ourselves from anything that appears to be a predator. So my concern with making a mistake gives the impression that I'm becoming vulnerable for people to criticize my work. And a predator attacks, and that feels like an attack. So for those of us who might have to overcome feelings of all or nothing, we have to be perfect. This is why we feel uncomfortable when it's time to give a speech, because there's a concern with making an error. And that one error will potentially, in our minds, ruin the entire effort. So if all or nothing thinking is something that you can relate to, comment below. The third reason public speaking appears to be an uncomfortable situation that can potentially threaten our social well-being is called overgeneralization. And overgeneralization occurs when one bad experience with public speaking from the past leads someone to believe they will have the same unpleasant outcome in current and future experiences associated with public speaking. So you think that one bad experience is going to happen again and again and again. Now, honestly, I engage in overgeneralization with restaurants. If I go to a restaurant and I have an unpleasant experience, I don't want to go to that restaurant anymore, because I believe that that unpleasant experience will happen over and over and over again. Again, this appears to threaten our social well-being when it comes to public speaking, because we want to protect ourselves. We're naturally hardwired to protect ourselves from uncomfortable experiences. Think about when you're a child and you learn not to touch a hot iron. You associate that feeling of burn. Hopefully you didn't touch it, but you know that if you touch a hot iron, a hot stove, that's going to be an unpleasant experience. Well, it translates over into public speaking. If you've had an unpleasant experience in the past with public speaking, and your concern is current and future experiences will have the same outcome, that's called overgeneralization, send a comment to me below. Tell me, oh yes, that's it for me, overgeneralization. The fourth and final reason public speaking can appear to be an uncomfortable experience is called fortune telling. Fortune telling happens when someone does everything in their power to prepare. They practice, they plan what they're going to wear, but their mind, they're still telling themselves they're not going to succeed. And again, fortune telling is associated with our desire to protect our social well-being. And that's because we don't want to subject ourselves to a situation that might have an unfavorable outcome. And because we cannot predict the outcome, the fear of the unknown tells us that the outcome is failure. That's fortune telling. So if fortune telling resonates with you, and that sounds like the reason why public speaking might be an uncomfortable experience for you, comment below. I'd like to hear from you. Speaking of wanting to hear from you, before I tell you what you can do to transform those concerns into confidence, I invite you to schedule a 30-minute free consultation with me so that we can talk about your specific needs and get you moving closer to a successful public speaker. I want to talk with you. You can register for a free consultation with me at my website. The link is below. Click the link. You'll go directly to my website. You'll see a calendar, schedule an appointment, and we'll talk about what your experience is like when it comes to public speaking. But back to what we were talking about. So what do we do about these experiences associated with public speaking that can create an uncomfortable and undesirable experience? Well, first, we've got to deliberately have empowering conversations with ourselves. You heard me right. We have to talk to ourselves. We talk to ourselves all day anyway. If you stand in the closet in the morning and say, do I want to wear this today? And you make a decision as to whether or not that is the ensemble that you want to wear, that is talking to yourself. Those messages associated with feeling isolated, all or nothing thinking, overgeneralization, and fortune telling, those are conversations that we're having with ourselves. Those are all happening inside of our personal thoughts. What we will do is learn to transform those types of messages into empowering messages. How do we do this? Number one, create something called a control code. A control code is one word that is associated with a previous pleasant experience. We want to recreate that exciting feeling that we had associated with this one word. So here's an example. My personal control code is push. 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 And I adapted this control code a few years back. I was really heavy into physical fitness, and I had a fitness trainer who was a younger guy. He was in college finishing his last semester, and he was completing a practicum, and he needed to act as a personal trainer for people in the community. So I signed up. He challenged me to do a plank, to hold the plank position for 30 seconds. Now, at that time, I was physically fit and I could do it. And I was excited to do it. And if you know anything about the plank position, you know that it is a very challenging exercise. It's a full body exercise, but it's a very challenging exercise. So anyway, this fitness trainer encouraged me to hold my plank for 30 seconds. I said, okay. So I assumed the position. And after holding for so long, I'm thinking, this is not your average 30 seconds. This is long. And I began to kind of lose form. And the fitness trainer said to me, push, Dr. Jones, push. You can do this. Push. You're doing great. Push. And I held the position until I just couldn't hold it anymore. And I finally fell from my position and he laughed. When he showed me the timer, he had encouraged me to hold the plank for 30 seconds. I held it for 1 minute and 15 seconds. I was so proud of myself after I got over being upset with him for tricking me. I was so proud of myself. That is a very fond memory. And that is why I adopted the word push as my control code. So now when I'm in a situation where I feel like I might be getting ready to panic, I say to myself over and over and over, push, push. And sometimes I say it so frequently that a smile starts to creep over my face because I'm remembering that instance when my fitness trainer told me to push. The point is, your control code should be one word that's easy to remember and associated with a pleasant experience from the past. And when you start to feel like you're going to run from a public speaking experience, say your control code to yourself. Regain center. Become grounded. And say it over and over so that it has feeling for you. When you collect yourself after saying your control code repeatedly, the next thing I encourage you to do is to understand how to combat each of those reasons public speaking appears to be an uncomfortable situation that might threaten our social well-being in some way. So let's start with overgeneralization. Overgeneralization is thinking that one experience from the past will have the same unpleasant outcome in current and future public speaking experiences. Of course, we don't want to purposely subject ourselves to a situation that's not pleasant. And that's why that unpleasant experience continues to replay itself in our minds. But this is what we do. After saying our control code, whatever your control code is, and you become grounded again, think about what happened and learn from it. There's a remarkable entrepreneur who said something profound one day. He said, there is no such thing as failure when you're actively working towards a goal. Either you earn or you learn. So what did you learn from that experience, and how can you take that lesson and apply it to your current situation other than don't give the speech? We're taking a different approach. Were we talking too fast? Were we so nervous that it sounded as though our voice was shaking, or whatever the lesson was? How can we transform that lesson so that we can improve? That was a learning experience. So that's how we handle overgeneralization. What about feeling isolated? Okay. Again, the reality of it is you have something very important to say to the group of people. That's why you're standing before them. You've done nothing wrong. You have something important to share with them. And again, the reality of it is you are in the same setting, sharing the same experience as the collective group in the audience. So you are all sharing the experience together. Technically, you're not really isolated. You're speaking with them. And there are some folks in your audience who are excited to learn from you. They want to know what you know. They want to know how to do what you do. They want that service that you have to offer them. Share it with them. Empower them. If you are like me, a perfectionist, and you believe that one mistake will ruin the entire presentation, here's my question to you. Who's perfect? It's not humanly possible to attain perfection, but we can attain excellence. One of my colleagues taught me this. She had to teach me this because I am that perfectionist. And she said, when you give all that you know that you can give, and you give a little extra, you push yourself a little farther, that's excellence. You can celebrate excellence. That's attainable. Get rid of this idea that there's a such thing as perfection. That's not attainable. So when you start to feel as though you need to ensure that your speech is perfect, this happens a lot when people are given toasts. They feel like if they mess up this toast to this very special person, then the entire speech is going to be ruined, and they put a lot of pressure on themselves. No, there's no such thing as perfection. Strive for excellence. Give it your all. You can attain that. And deliberately tell yourself that when you are experiencing all or nothing thinking. And finally, fortune telling. Now, fortune telling happens to be one of those ones that I like to tell people what to do to transform their concern with failure. It's your script. You write the ending to your movie the way you want it to end. You want people to stand and give you a round of applause, a standing ovation, come to you afterwards and say, thank you for sharing that remarkable information with me. I learned so much. I am excited. I am charged. I am ready to move forward. That's the ending you give yourself. So when your amygdala is raising the concern that you're going to fail and you need to run and avoid the situation, gently say, thank you for your concern, but that's not how my story ends. And you tell yourself how your speech will be successful. Those are the strategies for transforming your concerns with public speaking into confidence. And I only scratched the surface. Again, I invite you to click the link below, visit my website, schedule a personal consultation with me for 30 minutes so that we can talk about your specific needs and how we can strengthen your ability to be successful as a public speaker. Thank you for allowing me to share with you why you have the reactions you do to public speaking, what causes your reactions, and why public speaking appears to be an uncomfortable and unpleasant experience. And I feel very confident you've learned how to transform that concern with public speaking into the confidence to stand before your audience and give a speech successfully. Listen, I've enjoyed this conversation. I'm looking forward to speaking with you further. Reach out to me. Thank you so much for your time. May your greatest ambition become your greatest accomplishment.